Welcome. Welcome everyone to the Law, Your Money and You. I am Roberta Saphire, an attorney in Sharon, Massachusetts, and
I'm Camille Barron, a healthcare advisor and financial coordinator, also in Sharon, Massachusetts. And Roberta, we are so happy today that we have one of our favorite guests with us. It's been a while, so it's long overdue, but we're happy to have him with us today.
yes, and we are so excited to have him. And I have to say, he hasn't aged a day. He looks so great. And he's one of our most brilliant attorneys in the state, or probably in the world. How's that for an introduction? I'm proud of liability. It gives us great pleasure to welcome back Attorney Jay Bronstein. Hi, Jay.
Hello, good to be back.
And we're going to talk about product liability and all the great things that you have been doing.
Yeah, one of the things I thought I wanted to talk about today is there's a proliferation of, with social media, exchanging used products. We have like Share Sharon, wonderful concept, great idea. Craigslist is an example, Facebook Marketplace.
They have that all over the country too.
Yes,
share this,
and probably the world. That. Yeah, since you were talking globally about me, so one of the problems is it's wonderful. Child products, we know, to get all the equipment you need for a newborn, and they keep growing. You might have multiple. Financially, it's a big expense. So you go on things like Share Sharon, just since we're in Sharon, and it's a wonderful. Sometimes it's so touching on there. Someone's getting something they need, people are sharing in the heart of community. One of the difficulties is there are products that have caused injuries, that have caused death, sadly, that have been recalled, that aren't safe, that Consumer Product Safety Commission, the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission, or CPSC, oversees products, consumer products. And sometimes they ban products, they recall them. Sometimes you'll see companies will recall a product. We're very familiar with it with cars, for instance. You'll get a recall notice. So you take it in and they'll fix it for free. But sometimes the products are absolutely banned, but also without that fix, they can be very dangerous or life-threatening. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is the fact that people need to vet. They need to check out online these products before they use them, particularly, I would say, any consumer product, but particularly a children's, infant product, cribs, playpens, toys, all sorts of things, basins, wash basins. There's all sorts of products that are out there, and it's wonderful to get them for free. But if you go on recalls.gov, or you can go on the Consumer Product Safety Commission site, cpsc.gov, and you can right away find a list of dangerous recalled products. And it's really important. As an example, and I'll say on recalls.gov is kind of a clearinghouse, and they have 6 federal agencies. They're all through that simple website: Consumer Product Safety, NHTSA, National Highway Traffic Safety, U.S. Coast Guard, which deals with boats and nautical products, Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, the United States Dairy Association, and the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, all have listings on there for products that have been reported or found to be dangerous or have been recalled and so on. So we know, like Carfax, you go to buy a car and you get a printout. But even then, if you buy a used car from an individual, you should go online and check out, let alone look for safety reviews to see what issues are with the product. But you might find there's been prior recalls. Cars are not the best example because many times, depending where you buy it, if it's from an agency, many times they've checked themselves or they vet it. But if you do it through an individual or anything, You absolutely should check it out. An example, a number of years ago, it's a long time now, as the years are flying by, but I was involved in a wrongful death of a 1-year-old in a crib. One of the saddest cases you could ever experience. However, what really made it sad was that this crib had been involved in a number of reported severe injuries and hazards to the poor user, the little infants. And in this case, without getting too technical, there was a match. If you picture a crib, the mattress support system is simply the slats or whatever mechanism they have that the mattress sits on. So in this case, that failed, that sagged down, it gave way. So when the mattress tilted, it created a gap between the side of the crib or the slats and the mattress. And the poor young child slid down during the night and was found in the morning with his, I'm sorry to even, but it's a reality. His head was wedged between the mattress and the crib, and he asphyxiated. And horrible, horrible. So with engineers got involved, and clearly there was a problem, a reported problem with the design of this crib and the mattress support system. So gaps between the mattress are very dangerous, obviously, because a child can slip down. But here was the problem. The parent, after this, found on the news, heard on the news, a report about a recall of this manufacturer's crib. They're no longer in business for good reason, sadly. And they found that the crib had been involved in numerous other incidents for the same related issue. They called Consumer Product Safety, CPSC, and because they were thinking not of a case, they were thinking of the greater good, this should not happen again, they gave the crib to Consumer Product Safety, who took it down to DC, Maryland area. And after examining it, they issued a total ban on these cribs, a recall, not to fix it, but it was beyond fixing. So this model crib was banned, it's off the market. Once a crib or a product is recalled or off the market, it's illegal to transfer them as a consumer. It's certainly illegal for a retailer to sell them after that point, but it's also illegal for consumers on Sharon, on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, to resell them or even give them away free. It's because they've been deemed hazardous. Now, what happens with a crib? It goes up after the child climbs out of it that fateful night, when life changes, because now the child's mobile and, they're not we remember those days as parents. And so it goes up in the attic, it goes in the basement. They wait, maybe they have a second child, maybe they give it to a neighbor. Maybe years later, they say, you know what, we're gonna downsize or whatever. We're gonna give this to a neighbor who needs it. Or we're gonna make a few bucks, we're gonna yard sale it or put it on Craigslist. So I had a problem. We had a case, but we had no product. We had no, how you prove it's defective without the product? It's obviously a challenge, and how did it actually fail in that particular case? Well, long story short, you get exemplars, you get the same model, other cribs of the same type and model. So I went on Craigslist and also what do they call them, bulletin boards online and posted. And on Craigslist, make a long story short, I flew down to Atlanta and got a crib. I had cribs shipped to me. I ended up with 6, 7 cribs of the same type. Now, each transfer of that was technically illegal, but virtually all the people who I said, you should know, selling this is now technically illegal. Virtually none of them knew it. Like, how would they know it? They have it in their, some people didn't care, a couple of them for sure. But the point being that innocently, someone could have given away this crib. Someone could have sold it for $100 or whatever. They could have given it to a loved one, trying to help someone out. and they've just given them what has been a documented dangerous product to the level that Consumer Product Safety recalled it. So what I wanted to say today is that it's really important to, on those sites, to go to vet, to check out recall.gov or go right to Consumer Product or the various agencies. It's pretty simple to Google these days. Even an old guy like me figured it out, right? You know, you Google exactly what you want, you can find incidents, but you can go right to check. So any product that you're getting, I would check out, has there been a recall that needs to be fixed? Just like you might with a car. Is it banned? Is there a problem with it? Speaking specifically of cribs, what often happens, I'll see people giving away a crib mattress. The fit of the mattress in a child's crib is crucial because any gaps between the crib, if the crib's not the exact size for that model, and some of them, if it's a 1/4 inch off, a 1/2 inch off, it's a problem. It's a potential problem. I'm not, on here today trying to tell everybody, you need to live in constant
Camille got
fear.
a new Camille got a new granddaughter. I bet she goes checks that crib now.
Yeah.
Right?
In
No,
fact,
you
since I
will.
was the one who bought the crib, so I guess I better check it out.
Right,
Oh,
right.
yeah.
But not everybody, is in that position, right? Some people, they're struggling to get, but whether you're struggling or not,
Right.
but you're having, whoa, I just saved, without, somebody's giving me a high chair, someone's giving me this. Toys. I went on earlier this morning, I went on the Consumer Product Safety site, and there's product after product of recalls. They give examples. I don't know if you guys remember, but years ago, as time's accelerating as we get older, but years ago when I was on, we talked one time, it was around Christmas, and it was hoverboards. These toys,
Yeah, the
and
hoverboard.
do you remember they were catching fire, exploding because of the lithium batteries? They had
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
sell
and
for a
planes
while.
and other places. That was big
Yeah.
then.
So that was like 5+ years ago, right? I don't
Yeah.
know, half a decade or more. I went on this morning, there's another recall for a hoverboard, and because of the lithium battery. So, you can't necessarily rely. Look, there may be somebody listening here who's into manufacturing, who's into design a product, and not trying to implicate, but you can't necessarily rely on the industry or business to self-police themselves. People in it's a for-profit system, and you can't, sometimes they'll form manufacturing groups, like industry groups, and they'll set a standard. And that may or may not be a realistic standard. I'm not attacking anybody individually, but collectively, you can't necessarily rely on that. If you look at a product, you'll see little labels on it or seals like the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. Sounds comforting, right? But what is that standard? Good Housekeeping, as far as I know, is a magazine, right? And I'm being a little flippant now, but what we don't, as you're sitting there, I'd wager that if I was a betting person, that you don't know what that means, right? It's just some group, it sounds good, Good Housekeeping seal of approval. There's all these, industry groups. So when you see a seal, it doesn't necessarily mean that it meets the hazards that, in everyday use. How is a crib used? Children bounce up and down, they jump up and down, they move around, they grab things, they kick, right? There's weight, the things, it's a dynamic, like any product. There's a real life usage of it. So some of the standards might be okay if no one ever moved in the crib. They'll say, well, you'll see a warning in the, well, now you're not always a manual. Many times it's online or, pictures.
Yeah.
But they'll say, like, well, the kid's not supposed to jump. Don't let the kid jump in the crib. Don't let the kid stand in the crib. Well, you're not there all the time. When you talk about children toys, many of them are kind of surrogate, up to a point, babysitters in a way. There used to be that one that you could jump in a doorway, kind of,
Yeah.
like the springy, I don't know what it's called.
Johnny
I
Jumper?
don't even know if what's that?
I think was it called Johnny Jumper?
I think that sounds right. And there may have been competitors. And I'm not, again, I'm not but there were cases where kids were left and they'd end up strangling, choking,
Yeah.
getting caught. And the defense would always be, well, you're supposed to watch them the whole time they're in there.
That's
And-
why they changed the things on the window shades. So that they'll
Exactly.
go up and
That's
down
a
now.
very good
Kids don't
example.
get strangled in them.
The law actually holds, there's cases in Massachusetts, because the law in these things is state by state. Some have the same type of standard, but for the most part, each state has their own case law. But in Massachusetts, it actually holds that you have to foresee the reasonable misuse of your product as a design
Reasonable
manufacturer.
Mm.
So in other words, who's in the best position in a product? I'm picking on crib manufacturers today, and I'm not saying all of them. I'm just saying to be aware. But there are ones out there, just like any other product, that are cutting corners, that are ignored. But who gets the reports? It's the government agency, right? Consumer Product gets a report. But the manufacturer gets Ford gets phone calls, Chrysler, right? Or reports. Who's in the best position to know what's happening with their product? It's not the individual consumer. How do I know? Unless I see a report, unless I read something. But like an automobile manufacturer is getting these reports. So they are in the best, and they're ostensibly experts. So they're in the best position to know what is happening in real life with their products in a dynamic situation. So the law, so for instance, cars, like technically, if the speed limit's 65 or 55, well, if you go 60, are you on your own? Because after all, you weren't supposed to be going above 55. Well, everyone knows in real life, cars are going 80, right? They're zooming by you, however fast you're going, somebody seems to be going faster. So the law would actually hold it. The auto manufacturer can't say, well, you're not supposed to drive above 55. So the fact that our car, falls apart above that is your own fault. No, that would be an example of foreseeability of a reasonable misuse, if you will.
Mm.
So, and the reasoning being the balancing of who's in the best position to have the knowledge and the expertise. As we sit here, unless you've been involved in the case or have connection, you don't know much about cribs. Real life usage from experience somewhat, right? But for the most part, you put the kid in there and they sleep and hopefully everything goes. So the manufacturer gets all the incidents. So, and the government gets notices. So that's why checking it out is a really, really good example.
So Jay,
Yes.
Are you saying that if somebody buys a new crib, it's even possible that it may not meet the standards, that it may have been, they're selling it illegally? I'm talking about if they buy it from
Brand new?
a retailer.
Probably not a brand new crib, but if it's a brand new crib, I would still check because that model may have been out a while, right? You could buy a brand new,
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know, Chevy, they don't even make the
Anything,
Impala
yeah.
anymore, but whatever. Tahoe, is that Chevy Tahoe? I don't know. And
Man.
but there might be 5 years of usage for that model, or
It
more.
could be sitting in the side there, never used, but yet it was not.
Right. So it's really, I'm most concerned in what I'm saying today, in used products, because that's where the gap really is, and a lot of the used products are coming, not so, look, you would think that, I'm not Walmart, Target, I don't know, pick a retailer. Amazon's not a good example. It's not a box. Home Depot, you would think that they do some vetting. You would think it's not worth it to them, to run that risk or bad publicity or because they want to do the right thing. But used products are frequently transferred on the secondary market, or the resale market, whether it's Facebook, Craigslist, Share Sharon, all those similar type groups. So who's vetting those? You have something you're
Yeah.
passing on, you may or may not know, the
Oh.
person buying it, unless they check it out, they don't know, right? Unless they happen to have heard. And many times what it will be is somebody will say, I remember hearing, they might have heard a news report or read something. And they go, you should check that out because I thought I saw something. So it's really more in the secondary market.
I wonder
there
if
is-
they
yeah.
put, excuse me, I wonder if they put disclaimers, like, if you buy something, it's up to you to check out.
Yeah, well,
no.
or they're sold as is or transferred as is. And certainly, if you remember years ago when music first started coming out on the internet or whatever, it was Napster. And they were putting free music out there and the artists were worried, getting cut out of their proceed, whatever. And Napster took the position, we're just a conduit. The people are passing through. These are individuals within and Craigslist kind of took that approach and wasn't vetting for a while. I can't really speak to, I'm not up to date on Craigslist. I don't know how popular it is. For a while, it was booming, right? And that's where, but Facebook Marketplace, you go on, you see a product, they want, some, $50, $100, you negotiate. You have no way of knowing the safety of that product. And I'll give you an example. You're talking about new products, and how about Volkswagen a few years back? Volkswagen got nabbed manipulating the computer systems in their vehicles.
Oh,
I remember that one.
Right? They got
Yeah.
nabbed for manipulating the computer systems so it would improperly state the miles per gallon, so they could meet gas standards.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
And it was outrageous. I mean, it wasn't just like an innocent mistake. It was intentionally manipulating the computers in the vehicle. So I know they got fined a whole lot. I don't, a lot, but there's their next model. So can you rely on that? I don't know, so, and what I'm saying is, sometimes you can, and sometimes you can't. You can go, what Consumer Reports for years was a go-to. That's still around, but you could check cars. They'd have crash worthiness tests. I was involved in some rollover cases where vehicles roll, and it would have to do with the high center of gravity. And there's plenty of products out there that are so deficient. You might remember years ago, the Suzuki Samurai. It was kind of a Jeep-like vehicle, but it was like a little tinny thing. You could almost kick, if you went up and kicked it, you could almost kick it apart. And so a lot of young people, it's kind of a funky little thing. It was so unsafe. It was so prone to rolling over, and not just rollovers, but its lack of crack. Like if it rolled, it crushed. The A-pillars that go up by the windshield, they would just crush, and the person, So any rollover is a dynamic situation, but my point being that you really should check. And like even a vehicle, go on, and there's so many ways today. But even when you go online, you can't necessarily trust. You got to know what you're looking at. Is it a consumer group? Is it a watchdog? Independent? Is it a industry group? Is it the manufacturer? Putting a spin on it, or look, in any product situation, like when they have oversight, like OSHA or CPSC, the manufacturers rightfully are always saying, we need representation on there because we're the ones who know the reality in the market. And that's exactly, in a way, what I'm saying, that they are in the best position to get the reports. They are the best, to know certain information. So you need a balanced approach.
Excuse me, what about the coronavirus? Has that brought out more cases and more products to be worried about?
Well, it has, but and I'm not, I should say I'm not 100% up to date on the latest, but when they did the vaccines, for instance, there was in the legislation, they gave immunity to manufacturers. So if something's wrong, so there's a limit on who you can sue or what, and that's a trade-off. And so there are people being, through the vaccine, whatever, if someone has, and I don't want to get into that, right? But the reality is that the manufacturers, for the most part, my understanding is, have been shielded from a liability for that. There's all sorts of things exploding because of the, COVID. We're about to have an explosion on landlord-tenant evictions. There's been a moratorium, and suddenly that's going to be taken off. Various states, cities are doing their own thing. But what happens then? Are there going to be a gabillion, and I'm hardly exaggerating by saying gabillion, eviction cases? Our landlord, not everybody's a mega landlord. There's mom and pop landlords that rent a floor of their
I'm sure they
apartment.
have a list. I'm sure they're being evicted. Probably most of them are deadbeats, and they have
Yeah, well, some are
lists that they check off.
but some have been
Board of
through.
Health, unsafe.
Some are like that, but there's also, it's a mixed bag, but there's also
Right.
people who innocently have been through hell, who
Yeah.
work-wise have no money. So, but the point is, how are they now? How the standards are in flux? Like, what happens to the back rent? How does that all do now? Does it get tucked on the end? Does it, mortgages, same thing, people. So without protection,
Mortgages.
without protection, you're gonna have all these people suddenly in shelters. You're gonna have people on the street potentially. So it's one of the most difficult issues our society's faced in a long time. The sheer numbers of people. And with the virus, you got to figure something out. More people in shelters right now, it's not the best idea probably. And so how do you balance all that? It's a very,
Boy.
and what's to come, we don't know, so.
Well, you know something? We're gonna hold it there because we're almost out of time. But we have
Amazing.
enough time for Camille to wind up. This has been you are so fascinating and interesting. I mean, I'm thinking of all these new questions and new things that come out.
Well, I appreciate that. One of the things real quickly I like about product liability law is it's not just the individual case. You're potentially changing, the product. They're getting a danger. So even if one person today, excuse me, even if one person today hears this and checks a product that they were about to get, a crib, and says, you know what, it's worth it to me, I'm going to get a new one. I'm going to check it out. That's a plus. That's a win.
Yeah.
So
Do you ever see where they put these recalls too? I remember even at Costco, which is a big store, the recalls, they're up on a wall that if you
Yeah.
don't
Targets like
stand
that, I
on
noticed
top
that
of it
recently.
with binoculars, you can't see it.
Well, it's online. I agree with you. And it's, so people, you have to be pretty motivated to go to that one spot, and read all the notices, right? But I suppose it protect, they do it at one level to protect them. But now that can be online, it's so much easier today in ways. There's so much information that's difficult, but at the same time, it's easy to Google, and you just got to check what source you're on. Sometimes you'll do it and you'll end up on a manufacturer's site telling you about the product. And that's not without its value, but that may not be an advocacy group. That may not be an independent group. So you want to find a balance, but due diligence, just like anything else. And so.
All right, we're
Thank
going to have to wrap up. Caveat emptor, buyer beware. That's always been wise advice, but especially in these situations. Thank you so much, Jay Bronstein.
Thank you, Camille.
It's been
Thank you
wonderful
both for
to
what
have
you do.
And we will encourage you to come back, and we'll keep following this as new things develop. To our viewers, please take this seriously. It's very important to check things out, especially if they're on the secondary market. Thank you all for watching. And remember, let us know if you have any comments or feedback, because this is your show, the law, your money, and you.